everybody. Um, this is a continuation of things I think we covered on the live stream. Are unicorns evil? Yeah, the little car should be braking in your head right now. And you should see the little smoke coming off the tires and the little skid marks going on behind it. As your brain goes, are they evil? No, they're not evil. Every monster manual says they're good. Well, not quite. First of all, Savage Worlds put out a dying planet book. I can't remember the name of it, but it's basically Mars. Okay, it's that whole Mars and Sword planet, and science genre, like you get out of Edgar Rice Burroughs. They did a version of that. Uh, that's got green men, but I think they have 2 arms instead of 4. You can actually, you can figure out how to modify that stuff, right, guys? I believe in you. You're smart. Yeah. It's a really good book, and one of the things in there is the a Martian unicorn. We're going to get back to that, but it's not nice. Okay, and in fact, I think there's some stuff in the D&D stuff where they have like a culturally specific version of a unicorn that's not nice. They call it something else. I think could be in a different systems book, but at any rate, not all presentations of unicorns are nice. So let's talk about unicorns and maybe shake things up in your fantasy world. First of all, usually unicorns do have a magical property associated with them. Usually specifically with their horn, that is beneficial. I would keep that. Regardless of if you decide unicorns are kind and caring and benevolent creatures and represent the magic of the universe in this beautiful way, kind of like in Legend, the movie. If you haven't seen it, watch it. The cinematography is awesome. The devil guy is cool. The unicorn stuff is beautiful. Or do they represent magic in another way? And maybe the horn has a positive benefit, but everything else about the unicorn is horrible. Okay? All right? And on behalf of all us girls out there all over the world, even me, I like dragons, they're cool, but I was a unicorn nut too, pony nut. There's a side of me that's girly, but it's riding horses is fun. Who doesn't want a one-horned horse? How cool is that, right? But on behalf of us everywhere, I understand your love for the unicorn to be something like Out of the Last Unicorn, a good book. Read it if you haven't, or just even if you go. I've read the book and I saw the cartoon. The cartoon's good too. So that's the kind of unicorn most often that pops into people's heads. Now, mythologically, folklore-wise, what are we talking about with unicorns? In depictions in art, in actual real human cultures, and a possible anthropology, archaeology, was the creature real stuff. So the Greeks, ancient Greeks, they described the unicorn being like one part of its body was one color, another part of its body was another color, another part of the body was another color. Very different than that white unicorn, which I have a cool little painted mini I did. Rehabbed. I got that was all messed up. Lead figurine that I redid the paint job on, and I think it came out pretty good. One of those kind of unicorns with either the white mane or the golden mane or the silver mane, and they're white and they're pretty and they're prancing. Okay. But that's very different than, say, the Russian unicorn, which I believe is black, and he's considered the king of the mountain, and he's a guardian beast, and he's huge, and he's bull-like, but he's got the horn, and masculine, very masculine, very Russian, right? So you got the Renaissance tapestry version, Western Europe, you got the Russian version, version. And then you've got the reality of what the unicorn may be, what it actually may be in real life, which is rhinoceroses. And you've probably heard this idea kicked around. You've got the one down in India that's got the single horn. There's actually in medieval cookbooks how to cook a unicorn, which gives kind of a credence to the idea that the unicorn may have, in fact, been a rhino. And in Europe, for a long time, there was a single horned rhinoceros, very big, the woolly rhinoceros. Go look it up. You'll see how big it is compared to a human, how dangerous it was probably to hunt over the, time period. And it really only went extinct relatively recently. As like our weapons and population numbers got bigger, we finally wiped it out, unfortunately. And other rhino species are still going that way. Why? Because their horns are valued. Why? Because their horns are still used in Asian medicine, Chinese medicine. The horns are still considered for rhinos to have magical properties on top of the medical stuff. And the medical stuff that it does do, you can get from fingernails. I kid you not. So there really isn't really a reason to kill rhinos for their horns, for magic or medicine, but people do it. Okay, so the horn, supposed to neutralize poison and stuff like that. And because Arab cultures, the Arab culture values the horn for the sheath of a certain kind of weapon, and the real rich guys, they want the rhino horns. Okay, forget the species. I'm gonna have the last one. And so they're still just killing them and cutting their horns off. They have armed guards. Where they got to kill people to prevent them from killing the rhinos. In some countries, which kudos to them for trying to keep the species alive. I'm a big fan now at this point of we need domestic breeding. All you people out there that think that's cruel, if we lose all our rhino species around the world, there's like smaller one in Indonesia. Of course, there's the ones in danger in Africa, and some subspecies have already gone the way of the dinosaur. We don't want to lose what we have, and of course, the Indian one is under threat. We need a worldwide breeding programs for them all over the world, and have populations all over the world that are protected, so that if they need to be reintroduced to their native places, they can be, because we are greedy, despicable people and stupid when it comes to animal resources. That's why we don't have any carrier pigeons. They survived millions of years without us. We show up, we kill better, and we did it en masse for profit. We even were killing them while they were sitting on trying to nesting their eggs. That's where we get the term stool pigeon from. So, what does this have to do with unicorns? Well, I want you to rethink your unicorn. You can still keep it prancy and all that stuff. It doesn't even have to be white, for goodness sakes. But they can be. You can make them more brawny. You can just use rhinos and call them unicorns in your game. You can do a lot of things with this traditional monster, legendary creature, just based on reality or based on the mythology. You can paint them 3 colors. You see what I'm saying? Are they goats, like the ones that oh my gosh, I'm getting forgetful in my old age. I know the Church of All Worlds guy. Let's see, Granny knows a lot of things, but my brain is just on his name. It'll come to me later. Him and his wife, up in the coast here in California, they bred unicorns using goats. And the way you do it is you have your goats, and you try to breed the horns closer and closer, obviously, So you try to adjust where the horns are. Okay. Then you actually the idea is to get it to where you can merge the horns, and then train the horns a certain way. Yeah, that's how you make a unicorn. They're goats, and that's a possibility as well. There's the ibex theory. There's a bunch of theories out there about how the unicorn became a composite animal. Um, and you got the narwhal. Narwhal horns were sold a lot as well as magical and stuff. So kind of that's how you get because by the time you get in the Renaissance, which is more like our fantasy unicorns based on, the rhinos are, are rare. Nobody's seen a rhino. There's something they read about, the unicorns, and so it became started to look very different. So if you ever look through medieval bestiaries, you'll see that like you'll read like the weirdest stuff about lions or pelicans, and the picture you'll be like, is that an elephant? It doesn't look like an elephant, but somebody's trying to describe something to somebody who's never seen it, who's then trying to do the art. And by the time they get to that point, also there's all this myth and legends and symbology associated with the creature that has nothing to do with the real life animal. Okay, so you get some weird stuff. So that's important to understand. But let's think about how the unicorn is presented. Is it really presented any differently than a dragon in Western civilization? It is not. You need a beautiful virgin to lure the monster into the situation. You either are putting her out there to pacify it. Here's your victim. Go eat it. Go kill it. Or you're putting her out there to lure, to be the living bait who may or may not live, so that then the knights, the good guys, the heroes, the fighters, they can come in there and kill the thing. They do that with dragons and unicorns. If unicorns were super nice, why would they need a virgin to attract it? And if you look at the art, the virgin's obviously from at least nobility. They're not some peasant's daughter. So it's very much same motif. Princess, monster, lure monster in, kill monster. Maybe princess lives, maybe she doesn't. Kind of scenario. There's a thought. Why does she have to be a virgin? Well, the assumption is if they're unmarried, that's who you would be sending out to die. Then they're virgins, especially if they're a certain social class. And that's why that class is in the ones being pointed out, because the peasants, we can't trust them to not be rolling around in the greenwood on May Day, right? So they tend to get pregnant before they get married, So seriously, you're dealing with some stereotypes when you're looking at that art, social stereotypes from the time period. So unicorns are dangerous. It's right there in the lore. They will attack people and impale them. All right, that changes everything about how to if you want to really draw on folklore, how to present your unicorns, regardless of whether they're the manly king of the mountain types in Russia or the beautiful, graceful ones. There can be beautiful and graceful and freaking deadly. So it's a very different kind of unicorn, versus the ones you see in the Harry Potter movies or the ones you see in folklore. They have unicorns that it seems to me, I used to have a unicorn book. I gave it away as a gift. I should have probably kept it. It was so cool. It had unicorns from around the world. And they treated them all like different species. There was like a deer one, as a single deer antler. There was the one from the Middle East. There was your traditional kind of Western European one. And it was a cool book. I should have kept it. Cool art, cool book. It's right up there with the dragon book that got destroyed. That was cool too. explained all the different kinds of dragons and how they could fly, and how the fire worked and how it was all associated with helium. And yeah, it was cool. It was all done like, what if this thing really existed, and the laws of physics and all that stuff. The unicorn can take different forms. That's something else to think about. Are the unicorns in your universe the ones that have like just a single antler, and they're not goat-like at all? They're more deer-like. Do you have all of them? But so they don't have to look the way they're generally imagined on that end. So just some fun idea to make your setting different. But are they evil in Western mythology? And I might argue that they are not pleasant creatures. I know supposedly the symbology is it represents Christ. I mean, I've read that, and Christ getting killed by the knights represents, an innocence lost, and that's why it's but nobody ever writes that way about a dragon. The dragon's mechanically doing the exact same thing. In the storylines, plot-wise, it's doing the exact same thing. Dragon is a threat that has to be neutralized. Unicorn is a threat that has to be neutralized. Use a virgin, kill the monster. It's the same plot dynamic. It's just been repackaged differently. So I don't know if I buy that symbology thing anymore. When I really start about thinking about it, I just think we like unicorns because they're pretty, and dragons are terrifying, right? But maybe unicorns should be like in that Terry Pratchett book, just terribly vicious. That they're the pets of the fae folk and the elves, and they like to release them on the regular world and send them on a murder rampage. Okay, now remember I said Savage World had that supplement book. And somewhere around here, it's here somewhere with Savage Worlds, wherever box and storage it is. And they have a unicorn for Mars. All right. That unicorn is not nice. And I'll tell you why. It uses this horn. The reason it goes around impaling people is it's implanting baby unicorns. So think Aliens, the movie, but the unicorn version, when they're ready to lay their eggs or release their, what would it be? Parasitic, caterpillar version or whatever. The face hugger, but it's not a face hugger, but it's alive. Implant into somebody what's going to become a unicorn, and it's going to live off of the dead person, okay? Because you've been impaled. It usually kills people. It does that with its horn. And then it leaves, and then this thing grows and eats on the rotting body, and then metamorphosizes out. Maybe it becomes something else, and then eventually becomes a unicorn. That's up to you how you want its life cycle to be. But the idea that the reason the unicorn runs around and impaling people, and why they might choose a female virgin to put out there in Western folklore for the unicorn to impale, well, that's how they're making babies. So we got to use a chick, that there's a kind of logic there, that twisted, but it's there. Because I still don't know why dragons and unicorns need virgins. It's odd. Why wouldn't a boy work? And they all have to be female. It's like only the dragons are male. But when you watch movies, they can be chicks. So it's a strange thing. or just maybe they just like to eat the royalty and nobility. Maybe that's it because they're supposed to be super smart. But in movies and stuff, they're not necessarily super smart. So in books and stuff, sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. Unicorns the same way. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. So again, that's a judgment call for your universe. But think about that mythology and the idea that unicorns need to impale people I think is awesome. Sure, getting that horn that does all this magical fun stuff is awesome, but the act of going out and trying to hunt a unicorn should be terrifying, because that's the way it comes off from the Middle Ages. Like, I think the Middle Eastern one actually like tries to sing and lure people to it with it almost got like a siren call for men. It lures people to it so it can kill them. I mean unicorns are not nice. They're not nice. I don't, they became nice. They got a good PR guy or something, but they're terrifying. And if they really were based on something like the woolly mammoth, they would be terrifying, to be quite honest. So that's something to think about. Unicorns can be magical and have beneficial magic in folklore, and maybe not be good. So, and in the chat, and when we were talking, somebody pointed out maybe unicorns are all male. And that is literally the only, like they're male, but they lay eggs. So maybe they're both genders. But the baby unicorn, when it fully is formed, after it's come out of the dead person that's been impaled, because maybe the unicorn really doesn't need virgins, it just needs a dead person. It then is formed enough that it doesn't need like a mammal mommy to raise it. I mean, there's some thoughts there. Oh, and also it would explain like why maybe some of the creatures that live in the forest hunt unicorns. Those bad orcs. Well, maybe it's just self-preservation, people. There is a thought. Maybe the reason the evil monsters are hunting unicorns, who have all these special benefits, and unicorn hide does this. I mean, you can come up with all kinds of stuff on the unicorn's body that makes it wonderful and magical and part of the universe and needs to be preserved. But maybe they're being hunted because they are so dangerous to the tribal societies of these more chaotic cultures. And people don't get offended at the language. They were just trying to figure out how to explain the difference between the uber civilized and you got to follow all these laws and all, and the more tribal societies and genres in storytelling, all that stuff. And you really, really are losing it if you go in there and start applying all kinds of modern concepts to stuff. You're ruining, you're just ruining stuff for no good reason. But are unicorns evil-ish? Neutral? What are they? Do they even need an alignment? Depends on your system, right? But what are they doing? Why do they need to be hunted? Why is everybody terrified of them in folklore? I'm just saying, these are things you need to ask yourself, and maybe rethink how they're presented, because it'll certainly change how the players using their player characters interact with unicorns if um, the, the town that they're in tells them about this horrible creature that's killing people, and from where they came from, unicorns are magical, they're wonderful, and then when they finally have to deal with a unicorn, it's terrifying. And like, the books in the library were wrong. The college professor was wrong. I've been there many times. The college professor is totally wrong. Okay, just because they got a doctorate degree does not mean that they know on what subject they speak of. Sometimes it's all theory. They've never gone out and tested any of their theories, and they've ignored any data that says the opposite. So you get these people sometimes as professors, and they're on their own little bubble, and they're not going to explore the universe like you are going to have to get a job. And anybody who knows better and tries to tell them, man, that doesn't work that way, you're wrong. And then they call you a bunch of names. I'm telling you, be careful about what you learn in academia. Some of it's great. Some of it's 100% correct. And other things you need to test against reality. And I try to explain that to people, and everybody gets mad at me when I say theory versus reality. Theory is an idea. Reality is reality. Theory can be completely incorrect, but look good on paper. And you guys also have to understand, professors have to, and people in academia have to write. They have to put stuff out there. They have to keep relevant. And some of them just make stuff up. And everybody takes it as fact, and they shouldn't. And there's no peer testing done. Nobody checks to see if the study was done correctly, if there even was a study, if the study is fake. That's happened many times. And when people start actually testing, doing the peer follow-up, and study after study after study is found to be a fraud or incorrect or poorly done. And a flawed, I mean how this thing was set up. It was set up to give a specific answer. It wasn't set up to find out if the idea was legit. And you have a lot of that in the soft sciences, but you have some of it in the hard sciences from time to time. But you have a lot in the soft science. Nobody questions dumb psychology ideas, dumb sociology ideas, dumb economic ideas anymore. Nobody goes in and says, hey, this has been tried in 15 countries and it failed every time, yet you'll still have somebody up there teaching it and telling everybody it's going to work. It's not going to work. We've already tried it. So that's what I'm getting at for this scenario. If your adventuring party comes from a kingdom and doesn't have unicorns, and they've only heard good stuff about unicorns, which as players, they've probably only heard good things about unicorns. Theory, and then the reality of your game setting can be totally different. And that's where the fun is of being a DM. So, and it's educational for your players, especially if they're younger, so they start to learn to question things. Better to learn to do that during a role-playing game than when you're 25 and all your belief systems are being massively challenged because everything you were taught, at least half of what you were taught about really emotional things, turns out to be incorrect. Yeah, that's a bad place to be. So I like to try to teach critical thinking, which has not been going on for a long time now in education, from what I can tell. They took logic out of school. I see grown adults who can't apply the most basic logic skills because they never were taught logic. They don't know how to critically think. They don't know how to linear think. They can circularly think. It's all emotion-based. They don't know how to apply the brakes and go, I'm having an emotional experience. Is that emotional experience relevant, correct, and valid for the situation? And do I need to take a step back and look at this not subjectively, but objectively? Listen to what I'm being told. Look at what's happening and readjust my thinking. And no one's being taught that stuff. So it's all knee-jerk reactions also. This is part of critical thinking, is rethinking your monsters. It's part of teaching critical thinking to people you are playing a game with. Teaching, role-playing games also teach a lot of things like consequences, good and bad, stuff like that. It's all part of learning how to actually, as crazy as it sounds, function in the real world. And people aren't getting it from video games, I guarantee that. And they're not getting it in school. Otherwise, I wouldn't be dealing with so many people who don't have logic skills at all. Screaming at the top of their mouths, lungs, how rational they are, and they're literally falling apart in front of you. They're not. And you have to keep repeating yourself over and over and over until you can break through they're on a wheel to hopefully break through that at some point where it dawns on them you're saying not what they're thinking you're saying, or that what you're saying makes sense. It's crazy, the stuff I've had to deal with from the public. It's just insane. And I've come to the realization is my generation, my husband's generation, a few other generations around us and back got taught logic, and then it just disappeared at some point as not being relevant and not being important. And you don't need to know this stuff. You don't need to think for yourself how to do that. I'm not saying you're going to come to the same conclusions I am, but role-playing games, really, if you got kids, find one that you're cool with, learn to play it and involve them. It helps their creativity, it helps their math, it helps their reading, it helps their vocabulary skills, it helps their logic skills. It can help teach them the difference between good and evil. It can teach them about social contracts and what that is, their role in society. Even when they're playing the ambiguous characters, you can give them ethic dilemmas. It can help them as adults later because they've already been learning how to think about all this stuff. It's already up here when they're younger. And then when they're adults, they can be like, I need to take a step back and figure out what I'm going to do here because I'm in an ethical dilemma. What one person is saying and what reality is are two different things. Like, this is what I see happening in reality, and this other person is saying, no, this other thing would happen because we put this in place. And this is, and what they're saying is like Fantasyland. So not what's happening in reality, what's happening in their head. Like, they're ignoring reality. So you need that's what I'm getting at with this whole unicorn thing. That, and it's fun to throw a monkey wrench at the players, because they're always going to throw monkey wrenches at you. So throw them a monkey wrench. Oh, and if you put giant snails and slugs in, remember snails have more teeth, are the animal with the most teeth on the planet in real life. So you should be really emphasizing the amount of teeth in that maw. Just saying. Anyway, I gotta go because this will take a while to upload. But yeah, Granny's not feeling the best, so Granny's on the couch with her tea and coffee and stuff, and watching horror films while these things upload. I watched Slime Monsters. I posted the link on, because it's on YouTube, on Twitter. It's awesome, bad 50s film. But more importantly, you might be watching it going, wait, isn't there a Dungeons and Dragon monster like that? Not going to say which one. Might remind you of, but you should watch it. Next up, why this is uploading? Cosmic monsters. I have no idea what it's about. But hopefully I think it might be giant spiders. That would be cool. So also on YouTube. So, have a great day, guys. And I got to figure out what video I need to make next on my get caught up day here. So take it easy. I hope you're all having a relaxing Sabbath. Saturday's the Sabbath. And if you go to church on Sunday, where that's your Sabbath, I hope you have a great day on Sunday as well. If your Sabbath was on, your holy day was on Friday, same there. Monday, same there. There's probably a religion for every day of the week. So whatever day it is that you do your day of rest, even if it's because of your work schedule, I hope you're having a good one and actually getting some rest in. And I know rest doesn't necessarily mean sleeping. Sometimes it's doing something like going hiking, whitewater rafting. I think I told people that. Yeah. When I was younger, I was a certified whitewater guide. So I still probably have the certificate around here, unless it got destroyed. But yeah, it's not like my certificate goes bad, but we'd all die if Randy was taking you again. I need to go through a refresher course and build my muscles back up. Yeah. Everybody, live. That's my advice. Do more than read about stuff. Be like, well, maybe I can try to do that thing. Learn that thing. Maybe I can learn archery. Maybe I can take a fencing class. Maybe I can go whitewater rafting and find out what that's like. Maybe I can go into a gold mine on a tour and find out what it is like to be deep in a tunnel, or the caverns. I'll go on a cavern walk or something like that. You don't have to put yourself in danger. You just need to go out and explore your universe. Go camping. And think about the experience afterwards. If you've never gone camping, get a tent. You can go with some friends and go camping, not at the campground, but out in the frickin' woods somewhere, or the desert, or, wherever, away from other people. You can take people with you, but away from, where there be large groups of people, and deal with the problems that you got to bring in your own food. You got to bring in your own water. What kind of food are you going to take? How hard is it going to be to keep it cold? How much stuff do you want to take? You got to take all that trash out. You gotta deal with restroom issues. There's no restroom. Staying cold, having a way to cook, staying warm. Go camping for a couple days in the middle of nowhere. Just make sure you find out where they're releasing all the dangerous bears, because you don't want to camp there. Those are the bears that have been in people's campsites. They're potentially might attack somebody, and they have areas, at least here in California, where they drop those bears off if they haven't yet attacked people, and it's like one specific area. Go to the ranger station, find out where that is. Don't go there. Okay? Don't. I always double check when I go to certain national forests, because I know, like the one closest to me, they've got a bear dump area. I don't want to camp near those. Okay? And I go out in the middle of nowhere. Take a knife. If you have a friend who has a firearm, or you have a firearm, take a firearm. That's just in case. The only people I've ever had to worry about in the woods has been people. It's not been the bears or the mountain lions or the bats or anything like that. The animals have been fine. It's the people. But if you're in campgrounds, I guarantee you the bears are going to find your food if you go down to because the bears know, they're smart. You do something. Um, take a firearms class. Find out about black powder from there's always somebody willing to teach you all kinds of stuff. If you want to learn to climb a mountain, start learning to climb things. Um, but do more than read. Reading is awesome, and I highly encourage it. Watching documentaries, awesome. Highly encourage it. Like educational stuff, but try some things out. You know, at least get an idea about those things. It will make you a better describer of things. It will add value to your life in ways you haven't anticipated. It'll give you skills you may find yourself using someday. Take a first aid class. Learn how to resuscitate somebody with CPR. You're like, well, I'll never use it. You never know that. I've used it. I've done CPR on people. I've cleared a baby's airway. All right. I've dealt with people having seizures. I've dealt with people with broken bones. Dealt with people with severe traumatic injuries. Granted, I took an EMT. I was EMT for a while, but even with just first aid, you can and CPR, you can maybe save somebody's life. You just don't know. Learn how to put out a fire with a fire extinguisher. There's a right way and a wrong way. Learn what the fire extinguisher can and cannot do. Things like that. You're like, that's why I say live. Go paintballing. I think the kid's making engine noises down the hallway. He must be playing a car game. Yeah, try different things out. Learn to ride a horse. Get over fear. Face the fear. There's so many things out there to do. Learn to garden. Learn to fix something. Doesn't have to be big. Just try to pick up a new something. One new thing in your life that gets you out of the house. At least in your front yard. At least walking down the street. So you can appreciate life better. Too many people, like my nephew over there, life is this. And though I like this, and like electronics is great, and I like my role-playing games, they're great, you also need to live it. You need to live. So I just wanted to put that out there. He is totally making all the sound effects. See? That's a good thing, though. That's a good thing. Because in a role-playing game with cars, he's going to be awesome. So GURPS, when I do GURPS, it's going to be more modern. So it'll be cars and stuff. I think he was breaking just now, pounding his feet on the ground. That'll be awesome in role-playing. Totally, I think he'll be into the GURPS ideas that I'm kicking around in my head. So, I'm hoping I can get him hooked on reading pulp fiction and watching other things than TikTokers do dumb things on TikTok. So anyone, have a great day. Why RPG Grandma conspires in her mind how to get that imagination that's going on down the hallway into a role-playing game. Mad Max game, maybe? Something like that, I'm going to need Car Wars, guys. I used to have a bunch of games that got destroyed. I'm going to need Car Wars or the GURPS version. GURPS version maybe of car things. Wish me luck. Wish me luck. All right. Bye. Oh, like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff. Tell me I talked too long because I did. I rambled.